Hello buddy, it's Bendominator and welcome to what is going to be my final video of Fortnite Chapter 3. And in today's video, I'm going to be going over the entirety of Chapter 3 and kind of just giving my thoughts on the chapter as a whole. But before we get in the video, I just want to talk to you guys about the fact that I am going to be doing a subathon, which means I'm going to be streaming not only the Fortnite Fracture live event, but also possibly up until the launch of Chapter 4, but I need you guys to help make it happen. For every single subscriber, like, member, and even donation we earn, it will add to the timer of the stream, so you guys decide when the stream actually ends. I'm going to be starting the stream tomorrow, December 3rd at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you're looking for a stream of the event or something to watch during the downtime, then come and stop by. It's going to be a really fun time. But anyways, let's go ahead and get right into the video. So yeah, Chapter 3, the shortest and probably strangest chapter in Fortnite history. Depending on how Chapter 4 goes, I feel like this is going to be a time in Fortnite history that we look back on and just go, that was kind of strange. Because I feel like while this chapter introduced a lot of great things, it also felt very weird. It didn't really feel like its own thing. But let's go ahead and start from the very beginning, Chapter 3 Season 1. In my personal opinion, this was an amazing start to the chapter. Not only did we get a brand new map that I feel surpassed every single version of the Chapter 2 map, but we also got the return of Tilted Towers, we got the return of Henchmen and Vaults with Covert Cavern, we got the Spider-Man mythics, a pretty solid battle pass, and overall the game just felt really fun. But it also felt very strange. Because while we had a brand new map, the graphics felt pretty similar to Chapter 2. And while we had a brand new loot pool with brand new guns, people weren't really a big fan of the loot pool since most guns were either too weak or way too strong. The Stinger SMG dominated the loot pool for pretty much the entire season. And Spider-Man mythics weren't always the most fun thing to go up against. But we also had new features like Clombos and Tornadoes, which were cool but quickly got removed in the next season. So while I think Season 1 was a fantastic start, as soon as we start moving into Season 2, the cracks of Chapter 3 start to show. Season 2, in my opinion, was just an alright season. It was painfully average, in my opinion. But something that it did that I really did not like is it removed a lot of my favorite things from Season 1. Spider-Man mythics, gone. Clombos, gone. Tornadoes, gone. And due to the theming of the season being a war theme, the game just didn't feel as fun or vibrant anymore. But we did see a lot of really great new introductions, such as things that I can't even imagine the game without anymore, like mantling, sprinting, and zero build. Like, zero build was a huge deal, and I think that game mode greatly expanded Fortnite's accessibility. And if there's anything I'm gonna remember Chapter 3 by, it's gonna be the features like mantling, like sprinting, like zero build, like sliding, because those are things that have changed core elements of the game for the better, in my opinion. Other innovations like Clombos, Tornadoes, or even the brand new loot pools that we've seen aren't really gonna stick in my mind because either A, they didn't go anywhere with them, or 2, they didn't end up really working out. They put a lot of time into making a bunch of new weapons, but most of them aren't very fun to actually use, or they're way too overpowered for the loot pools that they were in. There are still standouts, however, like the Cobra DMR is great. I actually love the Hunter Bolt action now that we have the sniper buff, and things like the Ranger shotgun are extremely satisfying, but then you have things like the 2-shot shotgun, the Striker pump, the auto shotgun, the Ranger AR. I don't think any of these guns are going to be fondly remembered, and I honestly doubt Fortnite's ever going to try using any of these ever again. At least I hope not, that is. And by this time we can move on to Season 3, which I feel like was another high point in Chapter 3, but it barely was able to reach the peak that was Season 1. Season 3 was an improvement from Season 2, but it wasn't enough of an improvement in my opinion to be considered an amazing season, but I still do think it was pretty good for what it was. It did some good things to improve upon the loot pool while also bringing it a step back, and for the first time in what feels like forever, we actually got to see a new biome on the edge of the map instead of the middle. Am I particularly a fan of this biome? No, not really, but it was still cool to see, and for people that are fans of it, I think it's really great. And speaking about map changes, I think this is where Chapter 3 thrives. Because if you had to ask me my main complaint during Chapter 2, it would have been the map, but Chapter 3 flipped that complaint right around. Well, until we get to the next season, that is. But up until now, I feel like we've seen a lot of great map changes. We aren't seeing map changes from last season being immediately reverted, and we're not seeing a bunch of POIs mysteriously vanish out of nowhere. And we're actually getting a bunch of new POIs in the middles of seasons, like we got Tilted and Covert in Season 1, in Season 2 we got the Collider, in Season 3 we got a whole bunch, and while Season 3s weren't all that impressive, there still was a lot, and I still think they did some really good things with the map during that that season. So yeah, up until season 3, I feel like chapter 3 had some really good potential. The loopholes left a lot to be desired. Some of the map changes were better than others, but overall I feel like the game was stepping in a much better direction after chapter 2. But then we move on to season 4, which, well, I think the loophole was an improvement. Everything else just wasn't great, and I made a whole review on the season if you want to check that out to get my full in-depth thoughts, but just a short version here. I think this season kind of just ruined chapter 3 for me, which is good because we're getting chapter 4 next season, but man, I feel like chapter 3 was going pretty strong up until this point. The map completely demolished for me, and let me just say, I don't think I really expressed it earlier, but I loved the chapter 3 map. Each and every season added some new POIs to it. Each and every season kept it fresh, kept it interesting, and I think the base version of the map was probably the best version we had seen, and I think it was really strong. Much more biome diversity, much more POI diversity. Lots of POIs were enormous. You got tilted on the map, like what more could you ask for? A lot of the locations are very reminiscent of early chapter 1 POIs. It felt very nostalgic, especially at the beginning, and as we move forward, I feel like they were evolving it in some pretty natural ways. And then they just spilled chrome all over it, and that's kind of where you lose me. But I'm almost kind of worried that chapter 4 won't be able to live up to the chapter 3 season 1 map for me, because man, I really just can't express how much I love that map. So yeah, my overall thoughts, what do I think of chapter 3? Was it a failure? Was it a success? Well, in my opinion, it was kind of in the middle. I feel like chapter 3 did a lot of great things for the game. It introduced a really fun map, it introduced a bunch of new mechanics, but the loophole was probably its biggest downside. Fortnite really wanted to make us love these new guns, and I think most people just didn't. And I feel like a lot of us are either craving for the old guns back, or craving for new weapons that are better than what we got in chapter 3. And while they improved on map changes, there's also a lot that they could do to make these map changes more impactful and more interesting. Season 1 and Season 2 I think did a pretty good job, but once we get into Season 3 and Season 4, a lot of them feel either meaningless or like downgrades of the map. And the thing is, I want to say that Chapter 3 was better than Chapter 2, and in certain aspects it's really easy for me to say that Chapter 3 was better. Like for example, I think that the map changes were much better in Chapter 3. I think Chapter 3 introduced more meaningful things such as zero build, sprinting, mantling, sliding, tornadoes and stuff, even if they were only in the game for like 1 or 2 seasons. We just had a lot of crazy stuff that you wouldn't really see in Chapter 2. I think Chapter 3 did a much better job of actually keeping updates consistent. Even if every update wasn't your thing, you gotta admit, they kept the updates very consistent. Each and every week, pretty much, we got a brand new item, an unvault, something to make it interesting. And I feel like Chapter 2 lacked that update consistency. Some seasons had it, most seasons didn't. So it's really great to see it in Chapter 3, and hopefully they continue that for Chapter 4. But I also feel like Chapter 3 seasons in general weren't as fun as some Chapter 2 seasons. Now, are there Chapter 3 seasons that I would definitely say are better than the majority of Chapter 2 seasons? For sure. Season 1 and Season 3 are definitely the highlights for me. But seasons like Season 2 and Season 4, in my opinion, are either on par with a bunch of Chapter 2 seasons or worse. So yeah, it's kind of hard for me to say, was Chapter 3 actually a success or a failure? Well, I think overall Chapter 3 was a success. I enjoyed myself with Chapter 3. I'm happy with how it turned out. I'm a little sad with how it's ending. I think this chapter had a lot of potential to keep going. I think if they kind of refined the loot pool a lot, if they kind of brought back some older weapons, some classics, if they kind of rethought how they did map changes, because while they were doing a lot of great ones, they were also doing a lot of small ones that were damaging the map in the long run. I think it would have been better if they kind of planned out that stuff better, but it makes sense if they were planning to end the chapter at Season 4. The crazy map changes near the last 2 seasons does make sense in hindsight. And I feel like I'd be saying something a lot different right now if we didn't have Season 4 of this chapter, because I think Season 4 really tainted this chapter in my mind. I think I liked this chapter a lot more until Season 4, and if we were seeing this end event happen last season, I would be a lot more sad about this chapter ending. And while I am kind of sad about it, at the same time, I'm definitely ready to move on. I think Chapter 3 was a good experiment. It's definitely going to be a weird time in Fortnite history to look back on, but I think it was an interesting thing. It definitely feels like Chapter 2.5. It continued a lot of stuff from Chapter 2 while also focusing on improving upon a lot of aspects of it, while also taking a step back in some regards. So overall, I feel like the negative and the positive kind of equal out a little bit to make Chapter 3 just kind of a good chapter, but nothing more. Nothing too memorable, nothing too interesting, nothing I'm going to look back on and be like, that was a fantastic time in Fortnite history. because the only season I can say I have really fond memories of is with season 1, which in my opinion was one of the best Fortnite seasons ever. But after that, I feel like the chapter just kind of went slowly downhill. So yeah, overall, I think chapter 3 was fine. I think it was a pretty good chapter. I'm not in love with it. I don't hate it. I think it's hard to say whether or not I like it better than chapter 2 or chapter 1. I definitely think chapter 1 is still the best chapter. In terms of chapter 2, it's hard to say because it's only half the length, and I would be more comfortable comparing them if chapter 3 had more time. And I kind of just view chapter 3 as an extension of chapter 2 anyway. So yeah, chapter 3 was fun. I'm glad it happened. It was a good experiment, and I hope Fortnite learns from what they did right and what they did wrong so that they can make chapter 4 the best chapter in Fortnite history. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. What do you guys think about chapter 3? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new because I make videos like this all the time, and you can use my supporter creator code Bendominator in the Fortnite item shop #ad. Also, remember, you can join my Fortnite subathon live tomorrow. I'm going to be streaming pretty much all day, so be sure to stop by if you are interested. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and yeah, I'll see you in chapter 4.